talk, music, get it all
24 hours
on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Nigerian government reintegrates 720 repentant terrorists into society following a rehabilitation program. An IMF delegation team arrives in Senegal for another phase of the debt restructuring program. Torrential rains trigger deadly flooding in Niamey, leaving widespread destruction and several casualties.
The rain has caused a massive damage. At my house, the rain carried away our corrugated metal sheet.
Liberian government faces intense public backlash following $19 million airport cocaine seizure. Please stay tuned for the details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Veronique Joy.
Thank you for joining us. We begin in Nigeria as the Borno state government reintegrates 720 repentant terrorists into society after completing a rehabilitation and de-radicalization program. While authorities say the initiative is aimed at promoting peace and encouraging more defections from insurgent groups, some Nigerians have raised concerns about the safety of the affected communities. Correspondent Yechenu Sasitu reports.
The latest batch of 720 former insurgents has been reintegrated into communities across Borno State following the completion of a government-backed rehabilitation program. State authorities say the initiative forms part of efforts to address insurgency through non-military measures and support the return of former fighters to civilian life. However, reactions from some Nigerians suggest lingering concerns over the program.
Absolute no, for a reason. It will look as if there is no real justice for victims.
You don't reintegrate people from such criminal activities. Data is what people should follow.
What does the law say? You can't go to civilized societies. You can't be in the US and then come and say you're a repentant terrorist.
Well, yes, they can be allowed to return, but not immediately.
Those concerns are shared by global security analyst Dixon Osaje, who says although rehabilitation is important, the timing of the reintegration may not be appropriate.
You can't be reintegrating criminals during wartime. You can't do that. The war is ongoing. The fight against terrorism is ongoing. And you are reintegrating those who kill our officers and men. You are integrating those who kill our gallant soldiers, our gallant military officers. And what is the methodology of their reintegration? Do you have a database? The last reintegration they had years back, you have their database. Where are they? Can you tell me where they are presently?
With the reintegration of the latest batch, the number of former insurgents returned to society under the program has now reached 9,680 since its inception. The development comes as the federal government begins the mass trial of individuals facing terrorism-related charges at the Federal High Court in Abuja. At least 58 suspects are scheduled to appear before Justice James Omotosho and other trial judges. For WADR, Yechenu Sasitu in Abuja.
Now, still in Nigeria, health authorities are intensifying emergency measures to contain a fatal cholera outbreak in Borno State, in north-central Nigeria region. Health officials have confirmed 5 deaths and 11 laboratory cases within the state. The rapid dual state spike have raised emergent concerns and urgent national alarms over the accelerated spread of waterborne diseases across Nigeria as the annual rainy season gathers momentum. Usman Umar reports.
Health authorities in Plateau State say 11 cases of cholera have been confirmed, while 5 people died from the disease in Mangu local government area. The outbreak has also resulted in more than 50 suspected cases across affected communities. According to the Plateau State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Nicholas Bamlong, the confirmed and suspected cases were recorded in Pushit, Mangu 1 and Mangu 2 communities. In response, the state government has deployed additional rapid response teams to affected areas, expanded treatment and isolation facilities, and procured essential medical supplies, including diagnostic kits and intravenous fluids. Authorities have also activated an incident management system to coordinate emergency response efforts and prevent further spread of the disease. Cholera is a highly infectious disease spread through contaminated food and water and is often linked to poor sanitation and inadequate access to clean water. Public health experts warn that with the onset of the rainy season, communities must strengthen hygiene practices, ensure access to safe drinking water, and seek immediate medical attention when symptoms appear.
That was Usman Umar with that report. An International Monetary Fund (IMF) delegation is currently in Dakar to resume discussions with Senegalese authorities on a possible new financing program as the country seeks solution to its mounting debt crisis. The visit marks the first formal engagement between the IMF and Senegalese authorities in several months and is expected to focus on the country's debt position, financing needs, and economic reform plans. Imo Edit has the details.
An International Monetary Fund mission has begun a 5-day visit to Dakar, aimed at advancing discussions on a new financing arrangement for Senegal. The delegation is led by the IMF's new mission chief for Senegal, Mercedes Vera Martin, and includes a team of economists and financial experts. At the center of the discussion is Senegal's growing debt burden, which some estimates place at around 132% of gross domestic product, GDP. The IMF is also expected to review measures adopted by the government to improve public finances and ensure greater transparency in debt management. Another key issue is Senegal's financing requirements over the next 12 months, particularly its capacity to meet debt repayment obligations while sustaining economic and social programs. The mission comes at a significant political moment as it is the first official IMF visit since the departure of Ousmane Sonko from the Prime Minister's office in May. While serving as Prime Minister, Sonko opposed any restructuring of Senegal's debt. Now, President of the National Assembly, he has signaled openness to debt rescheduling, while warning that lawmakers could intervene if any agreement is viewed as undermining the country's economic transformation agenda. For its part, the government has maintained that it prefers active debt management measures rather than a formal debt restructuring process.
That was Imo Edith with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And now we cross over to the Central Sahel, where the Malian military announced the neutralization of Umar Kerena, a high-profile insurgent commander described as a key strategist within the Al-Qaeda-linked group for the support of Islam and Muslims, Janim. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces, the operation was executed via a targeted precision drone strike in a volatile Jena area. The breakthrough comes as the Malian Armed Forces intensify their seasonal offensive against armed groups. Deborah Amowo gives us the details.
Umar Bari, also known as Umar Kerena, was killed during an operation conducted on June 3 in Mounian, a locality about 45 kilometers west of Djenné in the Mopti region of central Mali. According to information released by the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Umar Bari held a significant position within the group for the support of Islam and Muslims, Jinim. A native of Tebi in the Kerena commune, he reportedly began his militant career within Mujau, a terrorist organization, before gradually rising through the ranks and assuming increasingly senior responsibilities. In its statement, the military said Bari notably led operations in the Serma area before coordinating terrorist activities across several sectors covering the regions of Sikasso and Koutiala, as well as parts of neighboring Burkina Faso. The statement adds that his role in structuring and coordinating armed networks made him one of the key figures in the terrorist apparatus operating in the region. The killing of Umar Bari comes amid an escalation of military operations targeting terrorist armed groups. It should be recalled that Malian authorities recently offered 2 billion CFA francs for anyone who provides information about the whereabouts of several wanted terrorist leaders, including Ayad Ag Ghali, leader of Jinim, Amadou Koufa, head of Katiba Masina, and Al-Gabas Ag Intala, a senior figure in the Front for the Liberation of Azawad, FLA.
A report by our Bamako correspondent Aliou Cham, voiced by Deborah Amour, returned to Guinea, where the UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, met with transitional authorities to evaluate emerging regional security challenges. During a 3-day official visit to Conakry, the high-level discussion centered on Guinea's strategic role in maintaining sub-regional stability and the urgent need to adapt to modern peacekeeping mechanisms to combat threats. Abdullah Hassan gives the details.
As security challenges continue to affect several countries in West Africa, the United Nations says it wants to deepen cooperation with states involved in peace efforts. It is within this framework that the UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations traveled to Conakry. After his meetings with Guinean officials, Jean-Pierre Lacroix praised Guinea's contribution to UN peacekeeping missions and said the visit was also intended to explore new avenues for cooperation.
Guinea
has done a lot for the United Nations in general and for peacekeeping in particular. Guinean peacemakers have paid a price as well, a price for some of their lives, and I would like to pay tribute to them, to pay tribute to their sacrifice. And then, of course, the other object of this visit is to see what we can continue to do together, how to pursue our cooperation and develop it.
For the Guinean authorities, the partnership should continue to be strengthened in support of regional stability, according to Foreign Minister Maurice Kouyaté.
Guinea and the United Nations is a long history, but a good history as well. The place of Guinea, since our admission to this multilateral organization, we have had contributions from both sides, one for the other.
Through the meeting, Guinea and United Nations reaffirmed their shared commitments to strengthen conflict prevention mechanisms and continuing efforts to promote.
We apologize for the abrupt end of that report, but that was a report by our correspondent in Conakry, Cherno Alpha Ibrahima Balde, presented by Abdullah Hassan. And we turn to Niger. Devastating torrential rainfall lashed the capital Niamey throughout the weekend, leaving a trail of widespread infrastructure destruction and multiple casualties. The relentless downpours have caused significant material damage across several flood-prone neighborhoods. The Director General of Civil Protection has released its initial nationwide emergency assessment following the first major rains of the season. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Floodwaters rose within a few hours, catching many residents of the Nigerian capital in their sleep. The material damage has been extensive, as described by Marafa Hadiza, a resident of the Sunuchi district of Niamey.
The rain has caused a massive damage. At my house, the rain carried away our corrugated metal sheet and dropped it in our neighbor's house. Fortunately, there were no human casualties. However, the ceiling collapsed. Fortunately for us, we realized what was happening quickly and were able to get out safely with the children. Right next to it, we had planned to pour concrete slab to build a small upper floor above, and that also collapsed right onto the roof structure of our main living room, which is adjacent where we wanted to construct the 2-story house. So that collapsed onto the roof, and the roof caved in onto the ceiling. This has caused us immense damage.
Like Hadiza, Dozens of residents across Niamey have been affected by the disaster. However, the tragedy is not limited to the capital. Figures compiled nationwide by the General Directorate of Civil Protection reveal a heavy toll across the country. Following their first major rains of the season, authorities have officially recorded 7 deaths and 29 injuries, most of them caused by collapsing structures and lightning strikes. The regions of Dosso, Tahua, and Zenda have also been severely affected alongside Niamey. In total, 220 households, representing more than 1,470 people, have been directly affected or left homeless. In addition, livestock owners have reported the loss of 62 animals swept away by the floodwaters.
That was a report by a correspondent in Niamey, Yakuba Habibullah, presented by Christopher Aticho. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at WDR.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigerian government reintegrates 720 repentant terrorists into society following a rehabilitation program. An IMF delegation team arrives in Senegal for another phase of that restructuring program. Torrential rain triggered deadly flooding in Niamey, leaving widespread destruction and several casualties. Still ahead in the news, Liberian government faces intense public backlash following $19 million airport cocaine seizure. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thank you for staying with us. The government of Liberia is facing intense public pressure following the seizure of 233 kilograms of high-grade cocaine valued at more than $19 million at the Robert International Airport. Widespread frustration is mounting across Monrovia over perceived delays by the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency in unmasking the individuals connected to the shipment. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has maintained that investigations are ongoing and that it remains committed to ensuring due process as authorities work to uncover all those linked to the trafficking operation. However, many citizens say they are eager to know who was responsible for what is being described as Liberia's second largest drug seizure. Meanwhile, several civil society organizations have threatened to stage protests in the coming days if authorities fail to provide greater transparency regarding the case. Among those expressing concern is anti-drug campaigner Rose Guineas, a leading advocate of the Say No to Drugs campaign in Liberia.
We have organized this sit-down protest at the Capitol building, and it's dated for Wednesday. We cannot have a huge quantity of drugs in our country, and we don't know who's the owner, who imported it, and how it been here, and how it is leaving. If that said amount of drugs is in Liberia, that means that Liberia is a hub. And if Liberia being a hub internationally, it's not good for Liberians. It's not even good for Liberia.
Another concerned Liberian, Warner Thomas, says the drugocracy is already claiming the lives of many young Liberians and that those connected to the cocaine seizure must be identified.
Making money all of the children. See the children how they looking, they die every day. Now who the children die, mothers too are die for emotional distress. It's really frustrating. I know a lot of mothers that have died in the main answer because the president said this drug thing is a health emergency.
The seizure comes amid increasing concerns about drug trafficking activities in Liberia and renewed calls for stronger enforcement measures to prevent the country from becoming a transit point for international narcotics networks. For Newslink on WADR, I'm Abraham Parker in Monrovia.
Now, Mauritanian authorities say tougher border controls are significantly reducing the number of migrants attempting the dangerous Atlantic crossing to Europe from the country's coastline. Officials point to increased patrols, tighter surveillance, and anti-smuggling operations as key factors behind the decline. However, many migrants stranded in the country say the economic hardships driving migration remain unchanged. Sankule Janko has more.
Mauritania has long served as a major transit point for West African migrants hoping to reach Europe through the Canary Island route. The coastal city of Nouadhibou, in particular, has become a gathering point for migrants from countries including Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea, and Mali, many of whom spend months walking and saving money before attempting the risky sea journey. But authorities say the recent efforts to curb irregular migration are producing results. According to the Mauritanian Coast Guard, the number of attempted departures from the country's coastline has fallen significantly over the past 2 years, following enhanced maritime surveillance and operations targeting human smuggling networks. Officials say interceptions have dropped sharply in recent months, which they attribute to stronger border management measures and increased monitoring along migration routes. Despite the decline in departures, many migrants living in Mauritania say stricter controls have left them stranded rather than discouraged. Many continue to view migration as their best chance of improving their lives. The developments come as the European Union deepens cooperation with transit countries such as Mauritania in an effort to stem migration flows before they reach European shores.
That was Sankule Janko with that report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In Mali, the registration of motorcycles and tricycles begin this Monday, June 15th. The initiative is a special operation that aims to strengthen security measures across the country. According to authorities, owners of vehicles currently operating without license plate must go to specific centers across the country to register their vehicles. Our guest is Aminata Toure, Vice President of the National Council of Civil Society of Mali. She explains the organization's position on the matter.
Well, in my opinion, this is something that already existed in the budget codes, because in local government codes, there must be taxes on motorcycles, bicycles, among other things. So registration is also normal. I work for an NGO, and I know that when we pay for motorcycles, we clear them through customs, and we get the motorcycle registration numbers. Malians in general don't do it because perhaps people don't understand. There hasn't been much awareness raising about it, or perhaps people don't have the means to do it. But I don't think it's a matter of means. So that's in terms of public finances. It will be implemented in the budget code. Now, in terms of security, every vehicle that moves, every motorcycle, every bicycle must have its registration number. So even if your vehicle is stolen, you can report it and say, here is the registration number of my stolen vehicle. And when there are problems, especially today in Mali, where we are in a very critical security situation and we know that vehicles are being used, especially motorcycles, it's essential to register them.
The price has been set at 12,000 CFA francs. The Forum of Civil Society Organizations of Bamako District, of which you are a member, is calling for this price to be reviewed. Why do you want it reduced?
Well, as far as I know, there is no debate about the amount, even though we think it is too much, given how expensive life is in Mali these days. Gasoline prices have gone up and transportation costs have risen along with them. So, if the government can make sacrifices and reduce its costs, that would be beneficial. Therefore, I echo their statement and ask if the government can reduce its costs so that everyone can register their vehicle quickly, ensuring their safety and also bolstering state coffers.
Several centers have been established across Mali. Some say 28 to facilitate the registration and licensing of vehicles. Meanwhile, what should the Malian government do to convince users of these motorcycles and tricycles to adopt them?
Bon, l'État doit s'associer avec la société civile.
Well, the government needs to partner with civil society to raise awareness because we're closer to the communities. We have many meetings and consultation forums where people can communicate easily. I also know that the government has collection centers and revenue offices in every municipality responsible for collecting funds. And regarding vehicle registration, the transportation services also handle it at the regional and district levels. So, what's possible is for the government to strengthen awareness campaigns and disseminate information not only through local radio stations, because that broadcasts everywhere, but also on television, not just Malian state television, but also private channels that people watch very often. Therefore, the government should use all these communication channels.
Alongside this measure, another was taken a few days ago, a ban on certain motorcycles circulating outside major cities, given that these vehicles are a means of transport for many Malians. What is your opinion of this measure?
Well,
in relation to this measure, I think that it still penalizes rural people because I say everyone goes to the field with motorcycles. They go to their work with motorcycles. But given the situation, people need to understand it. It would be very difficult because I have seen images where people are pedaling bikes. It's not easy, and some even forget how we pedal bikes today. So I think it's good to just ban motorcycles temporarily, but we'll still try to review what kind of motorcycle, because we already know the motorcycles that the terrorists have with them. Maybe they can release some of the motorcycles, but what looks like the terrorist motorcycles can be banned for a while. It will also affect the citizen who uses his motorcycle and who can no longer use it, so he is penalized too. But I believe that when you are in a country of war, you have to sacrifice yourself. Each of us are soldiers. We have a way of contributing, and we must contribute.
That was Aminata Toure, Vice President of the National Council of Civil Society in Mali. All right, for sports news, I'm joined by Abdullahi Hassan. Tell us, Abdullahi, what is happening in the world?
Good evening, Veronique. I'm happy to be here indeed. I mean, a lot is happening, especially in the ongoing 2026 FIFA World Cup, which is taking place across the US, Canada, and Mexico. I mean, national teams are really having grand opening matches, while others leave room for speculations. Minutes ago, Cape Verde, better still known as the Blue Sharks, played off a tough full-time against Spain. Now, for the Blue Sharks, who are debuting in history, this is their first appearance in the World Cup. They encounter with La Roja ended 0-0, despite Lami Yamal's last-minute entry. Well, coming up tonight, I know you were waiting to ask, right? Coming up tonight, Egypt will take on Belgium, while Saudi Arabia locks horns with Uruguay. But Vero, before we go, let's take time to appreciate games played during the weekend. First off, you have Germany, which defeated Krakow 7-1. Tunisia lost to Sweden 5-1. Morocco drew against Brazil 1-1. While Cote d'Ivoire, the elephants of West Africa, struggled to defeat Ecuador 1-0. It is worth noting that Cote d'Ivoire is the first African country so far to register a victory in the ongoing FIFA tournament.
All right, thank you very much, Abdullahi, for keeping us up to speed with what is happening in the world of sports. And that is how we end the news edition, 6 p.m. for West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudu Ju for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Veronique Njai. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.